let me go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm sorry. Please, once more.
Okay. We're going to call the meeting to order. It is 9:33. Okay. Anybody?
Can we get a second?
David Desplaines, I second the motion.
Okay. Okay. Now we have approval of the minutes from the September 16th, 2021 meeting. Are there any corrections to these minutes? I didn't see anything that needed to be corrected, but can I have a motion to approve them as written?
Phil from Northbrook, I move to approve.
Can I have a second, please?
I second Mona Reynolds from Cary.
Thanks, Mona. Okay, so the minutes are approved. Are there any additions?
Is there any pressing? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anything pressing you want me to work on, or can I finish the decorations?
You can finish the decorations.
Okay.
I'm just listening to a meeting and all I could find was these huge noise canceling headphones, so I will not be able to hear you unless you're in front of my face.
That's okay.
Exactly.
I think somebody is not muted. You might need to mute yourself. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Liz.
That's okay. Are there any additions to the agenda? No additions? Okay, I guess we can move to CCS staff reports.
Okay, so I have 4 just quick updates to give you. So I'm sure as you're well aware, this morning we upgraded to Polaris 7.0. So what that means is all of your packs have all of their custom strings returned to them, as well as removal of any banners that had warned patrons that we had some downtime last night. I will just open up the CCS website 7.0 page so I can point a couple of things out to you. Go ahead and pop that over. Okay, so the biggest things that you will see are that there is new documentation available. So as John mentioned earlier in the meeting, the What's New in 7.0 guide is available. So if you want a real dense read about what's new and all the specifics, you can definitely visit our website and see that page listed here with all of the updates all in one place. The biggest update that came through in 7.0 is really for technical services staff. So we had created a online training course that will feature cataloging and leaps. So we're sort of bringing our cataloging and technical services staff into the fold by making a lot of the functionality that was available in the client available in Leap. So it's kind of this idea that we want to get everybody on the same browser-based software. And courses and training materials that sort of walk through how to do that are now available. Okay, and then here you'll also see as issues become available or as bugs are reported, we have a reported issues table where we'll be adding any known issues here. So you can check back at any point to see that. And then as far as where you find this page, if you find yourself wanting to return to it later, from the CCS homepage under Member Tools, there is a section here called Polaris Upgrades and Reported Issues. You can find the 7.0 documentation there that I just mentioned a moment ago, as well as links to online training courses that mention how to use the new tools that were provided as part of the update. Are there any questions about the 7.0 upgrade before I move on to subject heading news? Okay, great. So the other thing that's kind of been a point of discussion among our cataloging groups is that the Library of Congress in November approved the replacement for the illegal aliens headings. I will go ahead and just open up the ALA press release for that. So what had happened is in mid-November, the Library of Congress finally decided to remove what they called the offensive term illegal aliens. They are moving from using that to replace some terms. So they announced a decision to replace those with non-citizens and illegal immigration. They had called the term dehumanizing, and it's kind of interesting. If you scroll down to the comments, there's kind of some spicy discussion happening at ALA about whether those are actually better replacements. The real takeaway here is that at CCS, we'll still continue to use our own replacement terms when cataloging and adding subject headings. So within the catalogers wiki, a while back in the last year, we had decided to stop using the word aliens and the word illegal immigrants or illegal aliens and use words like non-citizen, undocumented immigrants. You won't find the mention of the word illegal anywhere. So even though LC has voted on those or has put in place those replacement terms, the CCS replacement is what you'll see on our records. Jason from Fox River says, the CCS replacement terms are preferable, I think. In my personal opinion, I would agree. I think a lot of the comments section on the ALA press release would also agree with you. There's been a lot of back and forth as far as which ones are the most socially appropriate. But for our purposes, it's just important to note this is what we'll be using. Okay. Kind of in line with that, Rachel, who has sort of piloted this program through the Homosaurus, as a quick reminder, the Homosaurus, I'll just load that up here. We talked about this in a previous past meeting, but the Homosaurus, it's an international LGBTQ linked data vocabulary. So what that means is it provides supplemental terms when cataloging materials that have to do with LGBTQ topics. So what our catalogers have done is, as books have rolled across their desk, if they found that a term that's in the Homosaurus would be a good supplement to what is provided on the MARC record, they have put in a ticket to say, please recognize this term and add it. But how that's affected CCS and how that would affect your searching is, Rachel put this together for me kindly. This is a list of all of the terms that have been added since we began using the Homosaurus. So it's been really cool to watch this list grow and grow, but I just wanted to update you on the progress and how that's moving through. And the way that this works, to give you an example, if I pop back over, one of the terms that you'll see there is LGBTQ plus biographies. So were you to search that in PowerPack, you'd see over 70 titles that match a subject search for LGBTQ biographies, whereas in the past that wouldn't have been a catch-all for those types of biographies. So as we continue to use the Homosaurus, you'll see that list that we use continue to grow, and the titles that it's applied to continue to grow as well. So just a bit of an update on how that's being used at CCS. The last update that I have has to do with our Vega Discover usability testing. So as I'm sure you're well aware, we're involved in a partnership project with Innovative, where we are testing out Vega Discover with 6 of our beta libraries. So this past week, we completed 4 of our 6 usability test sessions. So far, we've worked with Algonquin, Cary, Fox River Valley, and Lake Villa to have their patrons move through different tasks and make sure that they can find materials and that they can use the account functionalities included in Vega Discover. And as we've watched them work through that, we've been able to find things that are really difficult to work with and things patrons say they really like. And then in January, we'll be publishing a report that summarizes all of those findings together. Okay. I do see in comments, Liz had asked a question, where is that list and is it available? It is published on the CCS website. I know Rachel had sent me the file that contained the list. I will go ahead and list where it is on the CCS website in the slides that I send out later on, but it is available publicly. Okay, so moving on to our next agenda item. Liz, you had submitted this. Do you want to describe the problem that you were facing in regards to placing multiple holds on a single item?
Yeah, so we have a fair number of book groups, and it's tedious for me to have to place 20 individual holds on the same title. So they're not item requests, they are just, you know, a title request. So I was wondering if there was a way I could kind of do them all at one time. And then possibly, I know I'm really asking a lot here, possibly save it in some format so I can use it again for the subsequent books as well. I played around with it. I couldn't find anything that works. I'm sure it is user error and not, Polaris, a glitch with Polaris. But I just wondered if anybody has a way to actually do this.
So I was really glad you submitted this question because off the top of my head, I couldn't think of something. But then I put it to the rest of member services, and Mieko, who does a lot of, she builds the majority of our training courses surrounding LEAP, pointed out to me that in our last upgrade, there was a feature that was added that allows you to place multiple hold requests all at once on one title. And the way you do it is, and I'll demo this in a moment, is you take all of the patrons who are in that book club or in that organization and you put them all into a patron record set. So I will go ahead and demo that real quick, but I also wanted to show you where on the CCS website you could find the instructions for how to do this. So let me load up where you'll find those instructions first, and then I'll go ahead and demo what that looks like for everybody too. So on our website, there is a page underneath how to that covers hold requests for multiple patrons on one title. And in here, you'll find a YouTube video that walks you through the process that I'm about to demo, as well as a PDF that showcases how to move through those steps. So whichever learning method you prefer, both are available here, but let me show you an example. I also see David from Displain says, we're about to launch automatic holds on popular authors using this. Oh, that's excellent to hear. Very cool. I always like to see a different usage case. Okay, so I'll go ahead and demo this in training because I don't necessarily want to accidentally place holds for 12 patrons all at once, because I could see them being a little irritated about that. Okay, so let me open up training real quick. Oops, what are you doing, Eva? Okay. And I'll just say for our purposes, we'll just use the CCS branch for this demo. Okay, so what I did before I got started is I took a list of 12 patrons and added them to a patron record set. That's another process I can also demo if folks aren't familiar with that. But to assume at the beginning, what you would want to do is go ahead and add all of those patrons to a patron record set. Once you've got the patron record set with all of those patrons in one place, you can go ahead and look up that record set. So for my example here, I'm saying, let's say that the Niles Library has a historical fiction book club. I've gone ahead and put all of those patrons into one record set called Niles Historical Fiction Book Club, and I can see there's 12 patrons in that group. So I'll go ahead and open that up. So I can see all of my patrons are included in the record set. From here, underneath Actions, there is an option to create multiple holds. When I click on Create Multiple Holds, the Find tool launches, and I can go ahead and look up the book that I'm interested in. Because it's a historical fiction book club, let's say they're going to read the book Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, which excellent book, cannot recommend it enough. Okay, so I've gone ahead and identified a title. I'll go ahead and use this one because I can see that there are 88 copies of it in the system. I'll hit enter. So now it's going to go ahead and create multiple holds. So the nice thing here is I can also set an activation date. So let's say that I know that this book club plans to meet in, say they'll even meet in March to discuss the book. Perhaps they meet towards the end of the month, I can go ahead and say they'd like these holds to start coming in around the 1st, so they've got those 3 weeks to read the book. I can also select the pickup location, so because they are Niles patrons, I'll go ahead and say Niles Main District Library, and I can click continue. So what this does is it will create a hold for each patron. If a patron has a block on their account, for example, this patron has an expired library card, I'll get a note about that. I'll go ahead and click continue. Same thing for this patron. And I can see that the hold request was created for all 12 patrons. And that's all you have to do. So if you had a book club and they knew that quarterly this is every single book that we want to read, you could set them up for success for an entire year by placing all of those holds ahead of time. But essentially that's how that works. You're not having to place 12 individual holds for those patrons.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was pretty excited about this feature. One caveat I will say with this is I did notice in the 7.0 upgrade, let's just say we added one more book just to give it a go. Let's say they were reading A Gentleman in Moscow. And there's our book with lots of copies. Under pickup, at this time, you do have to select a specific branch, but there is a feature that you'll see demoed in the training video that shows preferred pickup location. It did seem in like a previous iteration of Polaris, you could choose preferred. So for example, if you were a library that had perhaps like a drive-through or maybe a Niles patron's preferred pickup is Des Plaines because the library is right next door, it would defer to their preferred pickup location versus setting the same one for everybody. So if you're watching that training video and you see the option to choose preferred pickup and you don't see it's here, I've noticed that in the upgrade that might be a bug that's missing. So for now, you do have to choose the same pickup location for every single user that's in that record set. So it is just something to keep in mind. But yeah, it is a spiffy feature. Okay. I'm just going to look back at the comments to see if anybody had questions as it was demoing that. There are a lot. Okay, give me a quick sec here. Okay, so David had mentioned, there's a lot here. So David, you mentioned we're about to launch automatic holds on popular authors using this. Did you want to talk about it? Because it looked like some folks had questions about it.
Yeah, we're set to launch that when we start ordering again for the new year at Des Plaines, and it's basically very similar to what several other libraries have in terms of, you know, holds on popular authors automatically. And so basically we're just creating record sets for each of the different authors that we're offering it for. And then when we are ordering the books, we're running the record set to place holds on them when we're adding the on order records. So that's kind of the process that we're going through. We've just kind of finalized our list of authors that we're offering and things like that. But we did do a lot of playing around with it, whether like what the order of patrons are on the list and how it will handle other libraries and things like that. And it worked seamlessly. So that was kind of good and surprising. But it was good to hear that the order is randomized because we couldn't quite figure that out. So that's great.
Yeah, I always feel like those patrons whose last name is like Anderson, they always seem to get the upper hand. So the randomization is really nice. But I'm sure other people would like to hear about that program. So maybe I'll reach out to you offline and we can chat about how you did that and maybe feature it in CCS News.
Sounds good.
So, okay. I'm just moving through our comments to make sure. Ariane from Nile says that's really spiffy. Deborah, it looks like you had mentioned as well, if you use this feature, holds are randomly placed. And okay, yeah, so I think we're all caught up on that. Are there any other questions about this feature or its use? Nope. Okay, cool. All right, so I will go ahead and I can move us back into our activity. So bear with me here while I get my slides back up. Okay. Great. So I have an activity that I wanted us to work through today. So let me talk a little bit about why we're doing it, how it's going to work, and then I'll do a demo, and then we'll spend about 5 to 10 minutes completing the actual activity in small groups. So the activity I wanted to work through is comparing search results relevancy and ranking between Vega Discover and PowerPack. And here's sort of the reason for doing this is as we sort of pilot with Vega Discover and determine whether or not it's a good fit for our patrons. I think one of the things our patrons are typically most concerned about is relevancy. So that is how closely are the results I'm seeing aligning with the search terms that I've put in, as well as ranking. So it's this idea like I can put in a title and hopefully on that first page, I'm seeing the thing that I'm looking for. Or I can put in my subject and on the first page, I want to see titles that immediately relate to the item that I'm searching for. So with this activity, we want to basically compare search results between Vega Discover and PowerPack and see what those look like side by side. So the reason we're doing this is I'd like to generate some feedback that CCS can share with Innovative to help improve that Vega Discover product. And the reason it's so important to capture this now is Innovative is constantly adjusting Vega Discover, and that includes attempting to improve search. So in December, later this month, they're doing a big push to the way that some aspects of that search work. So we want to get a baseline now to look at how things are functioning. So after that improvement is pushed out, we can say whether or not it actually made a difference. And I'd also like to just see how the experience with PowerPack is comparing to the experience with Vega Discover. For this activity, Deborah was kind enough to run a report for me that featured the most popular search terms used by patrons CCS-wide in November of 2021. So the search terms that we'll be working with are search terms that patrons have used and used often 1 month previous. So here's how the activity will work. So I have a form that you'll be using, but essentially you'll open the PowerPack link provided in the form. You'll search for the search term exactly as it appears in the prompt. You don't want to use any filters or any of the predictive searches. So for example, if it says to search for the movie Cars, you're just going to search the word cars. Don't put in the word Blu-ray, don't add any filters. It's just a straight keyword search. Then using the form that's provided, we'll ask you to rank the relevancy of the search results. And so when we talk about relevancy, we're talking about the measure of accuracy and the relationship between the search query or the search terms and the search results. And again, I'll show you a demo of this in a moment. And then the last thing you'll do with that prompt is you'll list the rank of the desired title in the search results. So for example, I'm searching cars. Let's say that it's the 7th item that appears. You would list that rank as 7th because it's the 7th search result that you saw. Oops. Then we'll repeat the process for each search term. So we'll have you look at 5 search terms in PAC and then look at 5 search terms in Vega. So first we'll do this with PAC, we'll take a break, and then we'll repeat it with Vega Discover. Okay, so a couple more things. As I mentioned, the activity is in 2 parts. We'll first do this in PowerPack, we'll take a break, and then we'll do it in Vega Discover. The way that this is working is we'll have you work in teams of 3 to 4 in breakout rooms. So it'll be you and 3 other librarians, or 2 other librarians, and you'll work through the form together. Instead of all 3 or 4 of you each filling out the form individually, designate a spokesperson among your team. That person can fill out the survey on your behalf. That way you're getting the opportunity to talk through the results and you work together as a team instead of just individually. Excuse me. And then you want to note any good or bad searches to report back on. So for example, let's say you're searching for a specific title. Perhaps you're looking for like American Psycho, and then that title never shows up. I'd call it a very unsuccessful search. You might want to note that so we can chat about it later on in the discussion. Or if you're searching for the movie It, turns out it's the very first listing. That's a great search. Let's talk about the successes too. So anything that goes particularly good or particularly bad or is just strange, go ahead and note that so we can touch on that in discussion. Okay, so let me show you an example of how this is working. So you're going to start with a PowerPack activity. So let me go ahead and launch the form so you can see that. Okay, so the PowerPack activity will look a little bit like this. I know there's a lot of instructions, but let me walk through them with you so this is nice and clear. So search is a critical element of every library catalog. It might even be the most important, but users or patrons are typically making a very quick judgment about the catalog's value based on the quality of search results, right? So if they're seeing that when they put something in, they're getting bad results back or irrelevant results back, they're typically making a judgment call about whether that's a good or bad product immediately based on those search results. So that's why we're doing this. And the two different things that we'll be looking at again are the search relevance. So again, that's the measure of accuracy between the search query or terms and the search results. In this activity, rank is the number of the search result for the given term. So for example, if in the hit list, the item that you would select is number 3, that's its rank. So in this activity, you'll be exploring relevancy and ranking in PowerPack. So you'll want to launch the link that you see here. So when I click on PowerPack, it's really important to note you'll be using the CCS generic PowerPack. So if you work at Niles, don't use the Niles pack. If you work at Glencoe, don't use the Glencoe pack. You want to use the nice generic one, so we're not skewing this one way or another, because all of our packs are aligned a little differently depending on what you have in place. Okay, so the next thing to note is when it comes to rating the relevancy, you're going to see 4 options here. One will be very dissatisfied. One will be very satisfied. So if you select very satisfied for relevancy, that means that most or all of the search results were related to the search term and you found the desired title. Satisfied would be some search results were related to the search term, but not all, but you still found your desired title. Dissatisfied would be some search results were not related to the search term and I did not find the desired title. So with dissatisfied, you might see some things that relate, but ultimately you don't see the title you're looking for. And then very dissatisfied would be the absolute worst. That's when you've put in a search term, none of the search results seem to have to do with what you entered, and you can't find the specified title. You'll also see an option for not applicable. So if you didn't understand the question or you just want to pass it or you weren't sure how to answer it, you can say not applicable. So let's look at some practical examples here. Okay. So in our very first search here, it says search for Cars. You're looking for the Disney Pixar movie Cars. How satisfied or dissatisfied were you with the following? So I'm going to go ahead and drop in Cars. And I can see right away I'm finding the Pixar movie. And I can also see that the other search results have to do with the movie or other movies related. Okay. So for the answer here, I would say that I'm very satisfied, and I would put in my rank as 1. Okay, in the next one, it says, search for All the Light We Cannot See. You're looking for the novel All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Dewar. So I'll go ahead and take those search terms, drop them into pack, and I can see with this one, again, I'm satisfied because it's the very first hit. Now with the searches you'll be doing, they won't all be this perfect and this pretty, but you get the idea. So this one I'm very satisfied and I'm choosing 1 for my rank. So I'll go ahead and hit submit and I'm all done. So now what you'll do, and I'll share these links in chat once I've got you sorted into groups, is in getting started, I'm going to go ahead and drop chat. I'll go ahead and drop the link here. That's the form that you'll be working with once I break you out into groups. But the same way that I just worked through these search terms in PowerPack, I'm going to give your small group 5 minutes to do that with 5 search terms. And once you're finished, go ahead and hit submit. And again, you'll want to note any search terms or results that are particularly bad or particularly good. So let me go ahead and break you into those small groups. So for the Vega Discover example, the demo will look a little bit like this. Okay, so it's the same exact thing we just worked with, so I will not talk you through the whole form again, but there will be a link for Vega Discover in here. So when you click that, that will take you to the nice generic Vega Discover for CCS. So if you have a Vega Discover for your specific library, for example, Lake Villa or Algonquin would have one, don't go there. You want to explore the nice general one, so we're getting generalized results that aren't specific. And then what you'll do is just like before, you're going to use the very satisfied, satisfied, dissatisfied, very satisfied, and not applicable, as well as the ranking. and you're searching for those same terms. So once again, we might look for the movie Cars. I'm going to go ahead and grab the search term, pop that in here. Again, I want no filters. I want no predicted text. And this time around, I can see that I'm getting the Cars musical group, Car e-magazine, but this time around it is the notebook, audiobook on CD video game. Let's keep going. Okay, so I don't see it on the first page. Or the second page. There's Cars 2. And let's try page 4. We're getting a bit in the weeds. I'll try one more time just to make sure I didn't miss it. Oh, and nope, I didn't miss it. Okay, so within our first 5 pages on this one, I'm not seeing the movie Cars anywhere. So here's how I would fill out this one, unless I missed it. I hear a little chatter in the background.
No, I just wonder if the thumbnail was of the game, but the other formats. I didn't look at the tabs. Could it have been?
Let me hop over. This one here, I see book,
Oh,
audiobook, and video game.
okay. Perfect.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but I do see you're right. It's that video game art. Which is a good point, though. That might be something where it's like, do we really want the video game art there, or is that misleading? Okay, so what I would do with this one is I would say that I'm dissatisfied because I did see Cars 2 show up in there, but ultimately I didn't find the title I was searching for, and most of the search results were not perfect. And then for this one, the desired title is not in your search results. Type NA, so I would type NA because it just wasn't available. And then for search for All the Light We Cannot See, I'll go ahead and grab that. Reset Vega. And again, this is, let's see, I've got our ebook and our e-audiobook. I want the hardcover, just regular book. So I can see here it is, and it's available as a book. So for this one, I will go ahead and say I'm very satisfied because most of the search results did have to do with that particular title and author. And then I would put 3 as my rank because it was the 3rd item on the list. And I would click submit, and that's all you have to do. So what I'll ask this group to do now is I'm going to go ahead and open up, you'll be in the same breakout room with the same people. You're now going to complete the Vega Discover component part of this activity. So I'm going to grab the survey for this one and drop that into our chat. And then let me just ask, is like a general consensus, did you have too much time or just enough time in the first breakout room? Sounds like it was just right. Okay, so we'll do 5 minutes again. And I'll go ahead and warn you at the 2-minute and the 1-minute mark. So I'm going to go ahead and open up those rooms again. If you have any questions as you're working through, you can throw those in the chat. And again, you want to note things that worked really well and things that worked really badly. Okay, so bye-bye. See you in your rooms. Okay, it looks like everyone's back. Was that enough time to finish the second part?
I think for librarians, it's kind of fun to play in it. So maybe we took longer than the first one because it wasn't fresh and new.
Okay, I see some that our group didn't quite finish. I wonder, could you use like maybe 3 more minutes with your group?
We were on our last one. Well, we were on Yellowstone. Was that the last one?
Yellowstone was the last one.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
give it, so whoever your spokesperson was, I'll give them an extra minute just to answer that question, because I want to make sure we get full results for everything. We'll have to use their best judgment for that. But I definitely agree with Ariane that it's hard because you're testing out a new system and there's all these bells, whistles, differences, and you're kind of it's like walking into a new house versus walking into your own. It's new things you haven't seen before, or it's the same but slightly different. So you want to take note of everything.
someone noted that for Vega, it was sorted by relevancy, and for the Power Pack, it was sorted by most popular.
So that's a difference in Vega Discover, and Deborah, correct me if I'm not explaining this so specifically. You probably explain it better than me. But Vega Discover combines relevance and popularity into a single like entity, so they get sorted simultaneously instead of as separate entities.
Okay. So in theory, it shouldn't make any difference.
In theory, it shouldn't. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and address that one. So ranking of search results is something Innovative is currently working on for Vega Discover. So we will, as Kathleen had noted earlier, see some changes. Right now, they are, based on what we've heard at our development partner meetings, they don't want to have two separate filters or sort options for relevancy and popularity. So they're hoping to combine those two into like a single sort option. Right now, relevancy, I believe, is like truly only looking at, does your search term appear in the records? But what they will be doing and making some changes in the coming months is to incorporate popularity as defined by like number of items, number of holds, and then change some metrics based on how the ranking handles single word titles. Okay. So I'm sure you'll find in some of our results that particularly for single word titles, some of the results didn't match up with maybe what you expected.
Okay. That's true. It didn't. So,
and I will say thank you to the person who submitted the Vega, filled out the Vega comment form for staff in the training instance. Someone put in a suggestion or comment regarding ranking for Smile, the graphic novel, saying that the results weren't quite what they expected, which led us to have this conversation with Innovative on how the ranking of Vega search results was happening. So I don't know if that person's here, but if you are here, you should give yourself a pat on the back for bringing this up so we could address it with Innovative.
So what I would invite this group to do now is, we kind of already started this, but as far as discussion goes, what search terms delivered really relevant results in Vega Discover and in Power Pack, and which ones were less relevant? So where did you struggle and where was there a lot of success? And then Deborah's going to take note of what you have to say for Innovative. And while she's doing that, I'm going to tabulate our results because I'm sure everybody wants to see how the other groups ranked the results as well. So I'll take about 5 minutes to do that, but feel free to go ahead and have yourselves a discussion.
So I'm seeing some comments in the chat. Becky says that for Dune, half of the group had the book come up as the second result and half had it come up as the sixth, which is interesting. Did anyone else run into that issue in Vega?
we did, but then we were in room 2, and then somebody who had it come up first had copy and pasted the title into there, and it came up first. And then when she typed it in, there was a lower result for it, which I thought was kind of odd.
That is odd. Did anyone else run into that issue with Dune?
I'll just say that I did copy and paste it in there and it came up as 6th for me. So I don't know if that's the reason why it could, yeah.
Okay, let's see. There are some more comments coming here in the chat. Lori says, same with our group. One person had Dune come up first and the rest was lower. So that's very bizarre. We might need to do some more testing with that. Yeah, Ariane?
I just was trying to play with that, and it came up with different results when you put a space first. So maybe if they cut and pasted, they weren't starting, maybe it reads an empty character in a different way. And I think you might find a different set of results for space lowercase Dune or no space lowercase Dune as space uppercase Dune as no space uppercase Dune. I think all 4 of those searches will yield different results.
That is fascinating because I don't think it should be looking at case in the search results, but that is something really important to note if it is, so that we understand what's going on with that. There are some more comments. Melissa says Vega returned Yellowstone season 1 on page 4, which I ranked as very dissatisfied, compared with PAC, which I think ranks Yellowstone season 1 as number 1, potentially. We'll take a look at the results Kathleen's compiling to verify that. And Courtney says, same for her, Yellowstone was number 37. Yep, confirmation. Yellowstone, not great results in Vega Discover, too far down the list from what we were expecting. Anne's commenting back on this Dune case issue, didn't see any changes to Dune based on spacing or casing. So we'll need to definitely take a look. And this is why it's helpful to have many people doing the same search to see why we are all getting different results. Yep, Melissa confirmed PAC ranked Yellowstone season 1 as first. So it sounds like these single word titles are not turning expected results in Vega. As I mentioned, Innovative is aware that that is an issue. And it's something they're working on. So this is going to be a wonderful activity for CCS because once they implement some changes, we can go back to these sample searches and compare the ranking of Dune, of Yellowstone to see if our titles are showing up higher in the results list.
I'm about halfway done, so give me a little more time with that.
Meg says that for their group, when they search PAC for Dogman, they had one person who was actually using their individual libraries PAC interface, and they had much lower results than the general CCS one, which is interesting to see that it was sorting differently. That might be because your local PAC is limited just to searching your library's materials, so it might have changed which titles were available in your search results. Oh, I love all these comments coming in the chat. There's like too many for me to keep track of, and they're all very fascinating. Anne says that they did see one change. All capital Dune did return different results from all lowercase Dune, which is very strange. Thank you for testing and confirming that. Lori says they ran into similar results in PAC with Dogman as I believe Meg said. And you're hired to do all of our testing for Vega Discover here. You're on it with the different variations in the title and the spacing. Melissa notes that she really liked the inclusive stacked information for Midnight Library. And I'm assuming, Melissa, that's for Vega since the first result included both the book and all the additional formats. So that is one great feature that Vega has that PAC doesn't, is that it has these roll-ups in which multiple formats for the same title will show in the same group, which is hopefully good for patrons. We're doing some user testing to see how patrons interact with Vega to see if that does work for them. Lori says that Vega Discover was better with 2-word searches than PAC was. Anne says that now she can't duplicate it, so maybe Vega is doing just random silly things. So we will have to do some more testing specifically with spacing, capitalization, and Dune. It's interesting you can't replicate it. So interesting. So Becky says when she goes back and forth searching Dune all lowercase, sentence case, capital D, and Dune, get different mix of results without consistency between results and casing, just different results. So how bizarre.
I just had something come up to accept cookies, and it might be something to do with the cookies. I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll do some more testing. So Dune was a great example of something that's turning sort of wild search results in Vega. So this is something that we can bring to the innovative development team and just ask, why are we not getting consistent results? Obviously, the data in our training database should not be changing within the span of 10 minutes to drastically vary what results appear. So if there's some changes going on, we'll need to figure that out.
Okay, I'm just double checking one thing and then we can go through the results here. Okay, great. So yeah, these were surprisingly different. So can everybody see my screen? I know it's not the best layout. This is, if we were presenting this as data, I'd probably make this a little neater, but for like the purposes of our discussion, we're just gonna kind of quickly walk through what everyone had to say. Does that sound okay? Can you see my screen? Yep. Okay, perfect. So let's start with PowerPack. It's the one we're the most familiar with. So on the left side, we'll be looking at satisfaction, and then on the right, we'll be looking at ranking. As you can see, the way that Google shows status, the way that Google Forms summarizes ranking doesn't really help us. It just tells us that we had a count of 8, whereas we actually want to look at the average ranking that was given. So for Dune by Frank Herbert, it looked like for the most part, people were very satisfied with the search results, and Dune was the first hit that they had seen. Let's see, as we move down to Dogman, it looks like most people were satisfied, and Dogman #1 was ranked as the 7th hit. When we look at the Midnight Library, we have most people were everybody was very satisfied, and Midnight Library was the first hit, or the ranked #1. For Yellowstone, it looks like folks overall were very satisfied, and it was the first ranking. And then for the Lincoln Highway book, it looks like everyone was very satisfied, and it was the first in ranking. I will also note too, you might see, for example, Amor Tolls or the word Yellowstone. The reason this was lowercase or uppercase is we used it exactly how patrons searched for it. So the majority of the time patrons were searching for this in lowercase. So that's why we opted to choose the lowercase search term. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at Vega Discover. Okay, so slightly different results here. So for Vega Discover in searching for Dune, it looks like the majority of people were either very satisfied or satisfied, and Dune came up with a ranking of 3. For Dogman, things changed a little bit. We have folks being mostly satisfied and very satisfied, along with a little bit of dissatisfaction, and the average ranking was 1 for that. With the rankings here, I just rounded it to the nearest whole number, so we didn't have like a ranking of 2.5. For Midnight Library, looks like everyone was very satisfied, and just as it did in PowerPack, that was ranked 1. For Yellowstone, we had a lot of dissatisfaction with this one. We had one group satisfied, 2 groups were dissatisfied, but then the majority 4 were very dissatisfied. And I can see why Yellowstone ranked 34 in the hit list. And then for the Lincoln Highway, we've got a combo of very satisfied, and it looks like the rank for that was 3. So overall, kind of going head to head, it looks like PowerPack in general performed better. The only place where it seems like Vega Discover sort of reigned supreme was looking for Dogman #1. But in general, we can sort of get an idea about what types of searches need to be improved in Vega Discover before we'd even consider it as a product for patrons. So I think we've got a really nice baseline. So we can do this activity or a similar activity again after Innovative has made some changes to the Vega Discover product. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not tweaking the product changes the way rankings work or changes the satisfaction with search results. Okay. Are there any questions about this data before I stop the share?
Just to share with maybe librarians who are working with adults that, you know, Dogman is this perpetual, it's like a saga, so that the first book didn't come up initially in the pack just means that people are searching for book 7 right now or book 8 or whatever. Whereas the kind of still or motionless data in Vega, that's the first in the series, so that's going to come up first. But I think once popularity, whatever this ranking is applied, I think Yellowstone will rise up and Dogman will drop because they're not searching for book 1 anymore. They're searching for book 8. So I think this shows that it's kind of working as it should.
Yeah, and I think knowing the way that Dogman and the way the orientation of the graphic novel, that it's series 1 through 7, makes a lot of sense when we look at why certain things rank the way they do. It's really helpful to note. So, okay, cool. So I'm going to jump back over into our PowerPoint. And we talked about results. I'm going to turn it over to Liz so she can adjourn our meeting.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, please enter your name and library in the chat for the sake of me. Okay, Jason would like everyone to enter their name and library into the chat so he can do the attendance for the meeting. And then can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks. Can I have a second?
Second,
All right. Who seconded it? Can you?
Mona Reynolds.
Okay. Thanks, Mona. All right. The meeting is adjourned. Just a reminder that our next meeting is March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day. So everyone show up in green.
Oh.
In 2022.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Kathleen. Thanks, Deborah.
Bye, guys. Thanks for all your help and your feedback. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Spend the rest of the day searching